With so much excitement building around the Raiders and their inaugural season in Las Vegas, the fans want to be heard. The launch of Vegas Nation Fan Zone is their answer. That's right, Raiders fans can sound off on all things Raiders, from players to coaches to even the new Allegiant Stadium. Vegas Nation Fan Zone is accessible 24/7 and allows fans to generate and upload their own posts for lively interaction. Simply go to fanzone.vegasnation.com to sign up today.
Hey everyone, it's Heidi Fang here, your Vegas Nation podcast host, and I'm going to be here with you till 12:30 answering all your questions, and I'm really excited. I've got a ton of them today. I love when it's football season. Week 1 underway, Raiders take home a win 34-30 over the Panthers and heading into Monday Night Football. So my first question came from my Twitter account here with Maino03. I hope I said that right. He wants to know, why do the Raiders seem to take the foot off the gas and let other teams back in games? Let's start there because he has about a 4-part question. So let's start there with why do the Raiders seem to take the foot off the gas and let other teams back in the games? Well, that has been a struggle in the fourth quarter. They did give that big touchdown up. I believe it was to Robbie
With
Anderson.
so much excitement building around the...
So that's something that they're going to have to make sure that they keep up with as far as containing the other team's offense, and that's going to even be a bigger struggle when the Saints come into town. I think another part of that this week, if we're just looking at 2020 as its own entity, was there were several injuries that mounted up over the course of the game. So the first injury we had was to Trent Brown, the offensive tackle. He left the game after the first quarter. That was a big miss there, even though he only played in 3 plays throughout the game. I mean, not having Trent Brown there is huge for the Raiders offense. That's something they're going to have to see. I just read some news here from Ian Rappaport that his Sunday injury, which was his calf, is not believed to be serious. So he is not ruled out for Monday Night Football as of right now. So that's huge news for the Raiders. If Trent Brown can get back to practice this week, that'll be trending towards the positive end. Also, Sam Young left the game. He was the other right tackle. And then when he left, he had a groin issue. So then they put in Denzel Good at that tackle spot. And Denzel Good doesn't play tackle. Denzel Good plays guard. So it was tough, I think, for Denzel Good to try to make that transition on the fly. I think he did well considering. And then you also had the injury to Henry Ruggs. He left before the half. So even though he came back to the game, I think he was nursing that injury still a bit. And we're going to have to see to what extent he was actually injured and how that may affect him going forward. But either way, you still put Ruggs in the game. It's going to make defenses have to come up and play on him. So it's good, even if he's in the game, even if he's more limited than people would like to see. I think it was a good sign that Ruggs came back. So Nick Kwiatkoski, another injury, linebacker. Luckily, he did not tear his pectoral, as we found out after he went through the MRI. So that is huge news. He's the signal caller. He is your Mike linebacker. You don't want to lose him. So it's fantastic news for the Raiders that they didn't lose Nick Kwiatkoski. So I think with all of those mounting injuries, just to answer the question, was why the Raiders let off the gas there. They had to make a lot of adjustments on the fly in this game. Let's see how that pans out with the Saints, because, you know, their offense is as high-powered as any. Drew Brees, even if he's lost a little bit of arm strength, they've got a guy in Taysom Hill that can just confuse defenses because he can line up in the backfield. He can line up playing tight end. He can line up as quarterback, and he might throw a really deep pass on you. So Taysom Hill's the big joker wild card in this one, and that's going to be intriguing to see how the Raiders prepare for him. Just get to the next part of the question here. Happens last few years. Oh, that was about keep your foot on it like the Saints. Yeah, so that guy's just saying there they will really have to keep up a high level of play with the defense. The defense is going to have to step up here. There were a couple big key plays that Carolina were able to have, and they obviously came through. And the Raiders had lost their lead there with some of those big plays getting given up. So the defense is going to have to step up in this one. That's going to be huge, a huge, huge factor in this game. The offense was on fire on Sunday. Why not keep it rolling? Well, again, I think some of that was getting a few things communication-wise together. You saw Hunter Renfrow finally get involved a little bit later in the game. You had the big touchdown. I believe it was a 23-yard strike from Derek Carr to Nelson Aguilar. So I think they are getting to know each other. You have to remember that this Raiders team is young. You have a lot of guys here who are first year on the team. Hunter Renfrow in his second year is the most tenured wide receiver that the Raiders have. So I think that's a big part of what you have to look at when you think about this Raiders offense. Josh Jacobs, obviously a huge workload, 93 yards and the many touchdowns that he had. But he's not going to be able to carry that workload all season long, I don't think. He's young, he's healthy, he's a workhorse, but I think at the same time, you have to be able to continue to rely on him by mixing up your plays and going to other people. So as much as I think that run, ground and pound kind of offense is a big deal for the Raiders, I think that they're going to have to keep it rolling in new ways. And I think John Gruden is going to come up with creative ways to do that. All right, so I hope I answered all of your questions there, Maino. I appreciate those questions. And if you still want to send some in, I'll be here for another 14 minutes. But let's go to Nanny BT. She sent, I believe it's sorry about the picture. It could be a guy. Sorry, if you're a woman, guy, whatever. I'm going to answer your question. Okay, what's happening with Kwiatkoski? How is that how it's spelled? Let's see how you spelled it. Kwiatkoski. That's how you spell it. Awesome job there. So the question about him, well, okay, it wasn't a torn pectoral. So that, like I said, is good news. That report came from Ian Rappaport, NFL Network. Now, I think that he still does have some maybe sort of muscle strain. They're going to have to work through that. As to the extent of it, I'm not sure, but we'll see how it plays out during practice. We get our first look. Today's an off day. We get our first look at the team on Wednesday. So I'm hoping that we see him out there because I think it's a huge part of the Raiders defense this year, a big acquisition. He and Corey Littleton is the linebacker core there for the Raiders that they brought in. Of course, you had Malik Collins as well, defensive tackle. So lots of new players here on this defense, and Kwiatkoski is a huge part of that, being the signal caller. So we're going to see if he returns to practice, and that's going to tell us, I think, whether or not he's there, if he goes through some light work on Wednesday, the extent of that injury. But I'm going to say right now that it's probably some sort of muscle strain there in the pectoral that had hindered him in the second half of that game. All right, so Raider Ron, actually it says Raid Ron, no R at the end of the Raid. So he wants to know did he just get into the lineup late, or this is in regards to a Trent Brown photo that I put up with the anthem. During the national anthem, Trent Brown was the only Raider not to interlock arms with the rest of the team. He did not get there late, I can tell you that, but I think that every player right now is taking their own stand on how they want to approach these things. John Gruden said for each player to get some rest, to think about it, to read through all of the information, and to do what they thought was necessary. So if Trent Brown, maybe he just wanted to get some extra stretching in during the national anthem. Maybe it was nothing at all. Maybe it was something. Maybe he felt by interlocking arms and standing with the team that he wasn't standing for what he thought was right with social justice. So there's many reasons that Trent Brown could have been standing behind the team and not interlocking arms. But at any rate, I think that's ultimately right now a decision that every player is making on their own. You still see some players that are kneeling. You see other players that are standing. You see other players that are going to sit down and not participate at all in it. So there's going to be a lot of different things that we see with these anthems. And we're, as far as each person and their individual choice, I can't speak to that. So I don't know what Trent Brown had in mind when he stood back behind the team, but that, of course, being either a sign of his protest or just that maybe he just, on that particular moment, hadn't stepped up to the plate with the rest of the team. But that's something I would have to ask Trent Brown. All right, so going on here, we have some more questions. Hold on, I just got to pull it up. Everybody, bear with me here. We are live. All right, if you want to send in some more, please go for it. So Alan Adams asks, I thought everyone has to have a negative test to enter. If nobody is positive, what's the issue? Coaches and such in the NHL bubble aren't wearing masks since everyone is testing negative. Wouldn't it be the same concept for the NFL? Now, this was in regards to John Gruden needing to wear a face mask. It was a comment on a story about that. And basically, I think the NFL stated yesterday, I saw this going across on the news feed during Monday Night Football on ESPN, that the NFL may look to take some steps or fine coaches who are not wearing a mask. Yes, even though each person has been COVID tested to be able to enter, and you're also taking your temperature checks, you're filling out a questionnaire on game day, there's still the possibility that you could come into contact with it someplace, somewhere along the line. If you remember, all the teams are traveling. You're going from a hotel where you're staying, and maybe you ran into somebody who handled food that maybe sneezed on it. You don't know. I mean, I get a little paranoid with the germ thing. It's all going through my head every time I see things from back when, before COVID. Now I'm like, wow, that guy just picked up the loaf of bread with his bare hand and no glove. Like, whoa. So these are things that you start thinking of now. Your mind works into hyperdrive because we're being inundated with everything happening with this. And of course, we're learning as we go with the protocols and how everything goes. But John Gruden should probably have had a mask. I believe that was an NFL rule stated before the games that every coach should have had one. And John Gruden not wearing one, it's obviously hard to wear a headset, make a play call when you have a mask there. I mean, when you guys see us, I see the comments, you guys see us doing our live hits out in front of the Raider Stadium. We're doing our recaps and we're wearing our masks. That's because we're told to. We're told to wear the masks. So I'm sure that the protocol goes for everybody. We're told anytime you're on the headquarters premise, you have to wear a mask to be there. So I think, the NFL is going to take this one into their own hands to answer your question, Alan. I think what is the issue with him not wearing the mask if everyone is not testing positive? Well, it's just because it's a protocol. So I think that they want everyone to follow the same protocol. And I think that coming next week, we're going to see a lot more Andy Reid face helmets steaming up during different play calls, because that's, I think, what the NFL wants everybody to do for safety. All right, so we saw some comments here on multiple stories saying the Raiders barely stopped Teddy Bridgewater. How do they expect to stop Breeze? Now, let me take the first part of that and say that the Raiders really had no film on Teddy Bridgewater. They had no film on the Carolina Panthers. This team was entirely new. So when you look at Matt Rule as a coach and, Joe Brady as the offensive coordinator, they may have been able to go back and look at LSU film to see how the offense might have been prepared, but college film is nothing compared to NFL film. So Joe Brady is obviously an offensive mastermind. The man took the LSU team to a national championship. But when you look over how you have to prepare for this game and the different pieces that team has, especially with the guy as dynamic as Christian McCaffrey, I mean, that's probably all the Raiders could prepare for in their head and on a tangible game plan was to look at Christian McCaffrey and say, okay, this is how we can stop him. But they don't know how Bridgewater is going to play the game. You might look at some Saints tape, but it may not be the same. So I think that was part of the Raiders' preparation, was they really had no game film on Bridgewater. Now, on the flip side, there's plenty of game film on Drew Brees and these Saints here that are marching into Allegiant Stadium. So they're going to have to really put some pressure up front. That's going to be my answer to how they have to stop Drew Brees, okay? We're going to give them they didn't have film for the Panthers, reasoning for the first part of your question. But the second part, to be able to stop Drew Brees, we're talking about an elite-level quarterback, a guy who is so accurate. He is so smart when he goes out and devises this reads across the field. There's a few quarterbacks that are able to go through and make a play happen just thinking off the tips of their toes, and Drew Brees is one of those guys. I've always admired what he's been able to do and how he's commanded his offense, the respect that he commands from his team, and it's something that not everybody has. It's a special thing that Drew Brees has, and so when you go and have to prepare for Drew Brees, you're going to have to pressure him up front. We know because of his age, he's not going to be somebody who's going to be running out of the pocket as much as you might have seen with Bridgewater or some of these younger quarterbacks. You know, he's a pocket passer, so you're going to have to put the pressure on in that pocket. And ultimately, you're also going to have to look at putting pressure on guys like Alvin Kamara and Latavius Murray, because they have a little bit of a two-head monster there. And on the red zone, it's going to be crazy to figure out which person they might go to. And you remember they have Jared Cook now, who was a huge part of the Raiders offense a few years back before Darren Waller was starting in that position. So you have Jared Cook to line up for. You have Emmanuel Sanders there. Michael Thomas, a little bit hindered by an injury. We're going to have to see how his ankle issue plays out. But this is going to be a game where I think the big key for the Raiders defense is pressure up front, and the safeties are not going to be able to make a mistake. They're going to have to play really solid game plans. We saw a couple misreads from the safeties during the Sunday game, so they're going to have to step up their play as well. All right, next one from It's Elo. Is Eric Harris going to be a liability going forward? I don't think so. Eric Harris is somebody that has that dog mentality. He's going to get out there. He's going to learn from his mistakes. He's going to figure out a way to up his level of play. Eric Harris is one of those guys that's always hungry. You know it from his story, what he went through to get to the NFL, how he stayed in the NFL, the injuries that he had to power through to get here. This guy doesn't have quit in him. So if Eric Harris had a bad game, he's going to rebound. You're going to see it. And I believe that he will really soon. He's somebody that's a student of the game, and he's not going to just let everything fly past him and say, oh man, yeah, my bad. I'm gonna get better, guys. No, he's going to go and he's going to study game film, and that guy is going to come back stronger than you saw him in the last week. All right, Evie Aguilar at EV22. How do the Raiders improve their defense? The Saints will blow them out of the water if they don't clean it up. Yeah, I was just talking about that, Evie. I know you heard what I said. So basically, the Raiders have to get that pressure. The pressure up front is going to be huge. You're going to need to get through the front offensive line. The cornerbacks are going to have to really figure out how they cover. You have a guy like Traquan Smith that we really haven't seen much from. He's a wide receiver on the Saints. So he's somebody they're going to have to watch probably in the slot. You also are going to have Emmanuel Sanders there. He has big play capability. So, yeah, I agree that the Raiders definitely have to step up from what we saw in week one. And otherwise, yeah, it could be a really ugly game on Monday night. And that's not how you want to have the first game happen at Allegiant Stadium. So, yeah, definitely my big answer is pressure up front, and the safeties can't blow their reads when it comes to these like big touchdowns that we saw given up. They're going to have to play smart football. All right, Andy Will from UC of Football. Is Bryan Edwards ready to be a part of the game plan? Yeah, I was a little bit surprised that we didn't see him as involved. I'm not sure if there was some play drawn up that we were waiting for that big explosive play out of him, but I think that he's going to be a key to this week. I think that he's going to be somebody that we see a lot from in this week, that the Raiders have to get involved, and that's going to really throw off some opposing defenses. So he is such a big physical presence, and when you look at what he's able to do, I mean, the Raiders really got him at a steal where they did in this year's draft. So I'm very curious to see Bryan Edwards get a few more targets. I want to say at least 6 in this coming game, and I think that he's going to be a huge part of this offense in week 2. And we just haven't even began to see what Bryan Edwards is capable of. The guy that they drafted out of South Carolina, I'm really curious to see what we see out of him. So again, thank you everybody for all the questions. That's all of them that I have for today, and we are up out of time. I do want to check one really quick. Bear with me there, Larry Muir, our producer who handles all these. I appreciate you. I just wanted to check back really quick before we go and see if I have any other questions from today. And I got one more tweet, and that's it. We're good. Everybody, I really appreciate it, and I thank you for joining me here on the Fan Zone. I'll be back probably next month doing this again for you. And until then, send me any questions that you want on Twitter. I'm always happy to answer anything for you at Heidi Fang, and follow everything that we're doing at Vegas Nation, vegasnation.com, and download the Vegas Nation app. Thank you, everybody.
With so much excitement building around the Raiders and their inaugural season in Las Vegas, the fans want to be heard. The launch of Vegas Nation Fan Zone is their answer. That's right, Raiders fans can sound off on all things Raiders, from players to coaches to even the new Allegiant Stadium. Vegas Nation Fan Zone is accessible 24/7 and allows fans to generate and upload their own posts for lively interaction. Simply go to fanzone.vegasnation.com to sign up today.